Fasten your seatbelt. I am taking you for the ride of your life. I'm going to show you what this car can really do. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Hang on.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hold on to your butts.
Go get him, kid.
It might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor. Not a tumor at all.
As if. What you're going to ask me. So you can go ahead and ask me what you're going to ask me. And my natural response could be to get offended.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right.
You're listening to the 30-something movie podcast. One movie each week, 30 years in the making. It's the 30-something movie podcast, and just before we started recording, we all agreed that we are all pretty. Oh, so pretty. Especially for this episode. You guys don't want to start singing again like we did before we started recording?
No, it's okay.
No, choosing not to this time?
Yes.
Okay. The national opt-out list for singing on the podcast?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I thought I could maybe try to trick you into it, but that's okay. All right. Well, it is episode number 284. We're starting a new month. It is February 2020, but for us, it's 1990. And this month, because it's the same month as Valentine's Day and Groundhog Day, and I don't know what that has to do with it, but it is Love is in the Air month. And so our set of movies this month are all in the theme of romance, romantic comedies, what have you, or Mermaids, in which case Pat thinks that it's the movie with Tom Hanks and the mermaid, when it's really not, but that's okay.
Yeah, I messed that up last month. Jeez.
That's all right. Hey, there's worse things you could have messed up. You could have said that Wax On, Wax Off was in a Rocky movie.
Oh, man, that's cold.
200 episodes plus ago. I'm
I know.
Yeah,
taking crap for that.
Oh yeah.
See, and the best part is, Bo, like someone else on the podcast messes up, and you still get teased. Like
I know, because it's. Oh, do you remember the time when?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, come on. Had it been anybody else, wouldn't you do the same?
I don't know. Other people have messed up since then. Maybe not quite as big, but.
Yeah. Well, we can go back. Man. We can go back 100 episodes to Pat's comment about boats. I remember that got quite a laugh.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Oh my God!
Not exactly what he meant, but I haven't been able to go on a boat since then.
Yeah.
Fall asleep once and look what happens.
Yeah. See, there you go.
Oh man.
Did I? I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember if I left in all the snoring he did.
I think it's funny that if I can remember right, you told me I woke up and started talking like I was still in my sleep.
You
like,
did. It was almost complete gibberish. I mean,
yeah.
you were doing your best to try to make it make sense, but it's kind of like if you ever try to talk to a kid when they're sleepwalking.
Oh my God! Well, that's the thing. And the toast at my wedding was don't make eye contact, because if you make eye contact, he'll keep talking. He just won't wake up.
Right. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah,
all right,
I know, man.
Real quick before we dive into our movie here, our spoiler alert, we spoil freely, so just be warned. iTunes, please leave a 5-star review if you're enjoying the show. Let us know what you're enjoying about the show. We'd love to hear from you. I'd love to interact with you, whether it's on the social medias or through iTunes reviews or whatever. And then visit our website, 30podcast.com. That's a great way to find out more about the show and see all the different ways you can interact with us and get more out of the show other than just putting it in your ears every week, which that's what I do. Kids, don't put things in your ears. All right.
No.
Because this is the first week of the month of February, I'm going to run through our This Month in 90 little segment that we do, kind of the first week of each month. And so I've got some top news, some births, deaths, sports, books, movies, and songs. So the top news that I was able to find for February 1990, February 11th, 1990, is Nelson Mandela is freed from prison in South Africa after 27 years.
Wow.
February 21st, the Batman theme by Danny Elfman wins a Grammy Award for Best Instrumental Composition.
Nice.
Cool.
And February 27th, Exxon is indicted on 5 criminal counts for the Exxon Valdez oil spill.
Wow.
Which I think that happened, I think that was 88 or 89, but this is actually when they were indicted for it.
Okay.
So, births, one of the ones that I just found like one or two for each of these. Births February 12th. RG3, Robert Griffin III, the NFL player, was born on February 12th, 1990. And now I am not as much of a jazz fan, Pat, as I know you are. So I don't know if this name is familiar to you or not, but
it was Miles Davis died, right?
I have Mel Lewis died.
Oh, Mel Lewis. Okay.
So on February 2nd of 1990, did Miles Davis die in February 1990?
It was him and Dizzy, I think, passed on around that time. I could be way off. Watch, it's like completely the wrong time. But no, I do know Mel Lewis. He was he led a big band, the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Band. Really awesome stuff, dating back, I think back into the 60s. And great jazz drummer and great band leader. And yeah, Mel Lewis, he's pretty awesome, pretty iconic jazz musician. So he passed on in 1990.
Yeah, February 2nd, 1990. I looked it up really fast.
Okay.
Miles Davis was September 1991.
91. Okay.
So,
when was Dizzy Gillespie?
Let me see. So I can find it really fast. Dizzy Gillespie. He passed January 6, 1993.
93. Okay.
So actually kind of like almost 1 year after each other.
Yeah, it was like I said, see, and the reason that clicks is that was right. I'm trying to think of how old I was. Like when I was always into music, but when I was old enough to really start following and really get into like all these iconic jazz folks were like dying off in and around that time.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, sorry, little tangent, but no, Mel Lewis. If you're looking to check out some music, if you've never listened to Mel Lewis, check out Mel Lewis. Check out the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Band. It's great stuff.
Nice.
Great stuff. Yeah.
Nice. So let's see. Top sports. We have on February 11th, James Buster Douglas KOs Mike Tyson in the 10th round to win the world heavyweight boxing title.
Okay.
Top books for this one: The Bad Place by Dean Koontz and a book called Devices and Desires by P.D. James. Top movies were Driving Miss Daisy, Morgan Freeman and Jessica Tandy, and Hard to Kill with Steven Seagal and Kelly LeBrock. Top songs were Opposites Attract by Paula Abdul in a duet with the Wild Pair. So that is our, unless you gentlemen can remember anything from February 1990 from your childhood. Where were you? That'd be a good question. Where were you in February 1990?
I was praying for a snow day.
Yeah.
I was in Texas, so I probably didn't even know what snow was.
Fair enough.
I'm sure I was probably playing my Nintendo, playing Super Mario or something like that, and wondering why other places got snow and we didn't.
Nice.
All right. Well, our movie this time around is Pretty Woman. It came out on the 23rd of March, 1990, rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour, 59 minutes. Directed by Gary Marshall, who died in 2016. He also did Overboard, Beaches, and Runaway Bride. Producers were Arnon Milchan and Stephen Ruther. Stephen Ruther died in 2010. Milchan also did Legend, JFK, and Empire Records. It's Rex Manning Day. And then Ruther did Dirty Dancing and Face Off. Writer for this one was J.F. Lawton, who also did Under Siege, and this is just a fun movie title, so that's why I included it. Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death.
There you go.
There we go.
Nice.
Should have done that one for the podcast. Cinematography done by Charles Minsky, who also did April Fool's Day and the Lois and Clark pilot episode for the Adventures of Superman TV show. Music was done by James Newton Howard, who also did Wildcats, Flatliners, and My Girl. Budget was $14 million, box office $463.4 million. So it did okay. Rotten Tomatoes critics give it a 62, audience gives it a 68, IMDb gives it a 70, Letterboxd a 68, and CinemaScore an A. Starring Richard Gere, who played Edward Lewis. He was in American Gigolo and Chicago. Julia Roberts was Vivian Ward. She was in Aaron Brockovich and My Best Friend's Wedding. Ralph Bellamy, who died in 1991, was James Morse. He was in His Girl Friday and Trading Places. Jason Alexander was Philip Stuckey. He was in Seinfeld and North. Laura San Giacomo was Kit DeLuca. She was in Sex, Lies, and Videotape and the TV series Just Shoot Me. Alex Hyde White was David Morse. He was in Catch Me If You Can and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Amy Yazbek played Elizabeth Stuckey. She was in The Mask and Robin Hood Men in Tights. Eleanor Donahue played Bridget. She was in The Andy Griffith Show and Freddy's Dead. Hector Elizondo played Barney Thompson. He was in Beverly Hills Cop 3 and Runaway Bride. Judith Baldwin played Susan. She was in No Small Affair and The Stepford Wives, the 1975 version. Here is the trailer of Pretty Woman, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Welcome to Hollywood. Everybody comes to Hollywood, got a dream. What's your dream?
When I was a little girl, I would pretend I was a princess trapped in the tower, and then this knight on a white horse would come charging up and rescue me.
Could you tell me how to get to Beverly Hills?
Sure. For $5.
You can't charge me for directions.
I can do anything I want to, baby. I ain't lost.
All right, okay. You have change for 20?
For 20, I'll show you person. Wow.
Impressed?
You kidding me? I come here all the time. Well, color me happy. There's a sofa in here for two. Close your mouth, dear.
Who is this girl here? Does she work? She's in sales.
Touchstone Pictures presents the story of a
This
date
isn't a date, it's business.
that led to a deal.
I have a business proposition for you. I'm going to be in town until Sunday. I'd like you to spend the week with me.
That's becoming a dream come true.
Time to shop. Get rid of your gum.
All right.
I don't believe you did that. You're going to be spending an obscene amount of money in here. So we're going to need a lot more help sucking up to us because that's what we really like. You understand me?
Sir, if I may say so, you're in the right store and the right city, for that matter.
They're two people who have no business being together.
Everybody is trying to land him.
Well, I'm not trying to land him. I'm just using him for sex.
Just doing a little business.
The company I'm buying this week, I'm getting for the bargain price of about $1 billion.
$1 billion? Your folks must be really proud, huh?
Everything was going their way.
Well done!
Well done! Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Until
I don't want you to go.
You hurt me.
Yes.
Don't do it again.
something unexpected happened.
What the hell is wrong with you this week?
You fell in love with him? Did I not teach you anything?
Look, I'm not stupid, okay? I'm not in love with him.
I can find you an apartment and get you a car.
I want more. I want the fairy tale.
I think you are a very special woman.
Touchstone Pictures presents Richard Gere.
So what happened after? He climbed up the tower and rescued her.
Julia Roberts.
She rescues him right back.
Pretty Woman.
Maybe you guys could, like, get a house together. Buy some diamonds.
Okay, so I know that sometimes, sometimes we've said that we lean maybe a little bit more towards the action movie, maybe a little bit more towards the historical drama, some of those type of things. And sometimes, throughout the course of the podcast, we've had the occasional romantic comedy here and there. That's pretty much where we are this entire month. So for good or bad, we'll see where this goes. But Pretty Woman. Now, I would hazard a guess and say this is not the first time that anybody had watched this.
That would be correct.
Okay.
It's my second time.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Maybe
Wow.
maybe my 1.9th time. I'm
Okay.
somewhere in there.
Okay.
I'm within the margin of error.
Okay. All right. So that being the case, how does this movie make you feel?
I've said this a lot lately, but it's fun. It makes me feel happy. I enjoy everything about it. Yeah, there are some sad things and there are some dated references, but all in all, I enjoy the story. I like the references in the references. The fact that the opera they go see is a parallel of their story. I like that. I like the little things in the story. I like that they actually, the thing that they do at the polo match where they replace the divots, like that really happens at a polo match.
Mm-hmm.
Like they spend some time making this movie and making it well, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I mean, I can't disagree with Bo. I don't make it a habit of it, anyways. But as far as this movie goes, I can't disagree with him. I mean, it makes me feel happy. It's cute little story. And Richard Gere is good as the not loan shark. What would you call that? That's
Financier.
That slash and burn.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Hostile takeover, aggressive expansion, whatever. He's the businessman, the make the big bucks kind of businessman. And he's very
to quote Christian Bale from American Psycho. He's in murders and executions mostly.
Yeah,
Right.
And Julia Roberts is. Brings that whole like sweetheart vibe to her role. The supporting cast was very good. So yeah, it's just kind of a cute story, feel good, and yeah. So it makes me happy. And you're right. I mean, it's a well done movie. you know, it's interesting. The dialogue's good. Yeah, all those things. There was some stuff that I kind of not struggled with per se, but just kind of, okay. I didn't have all sunshine and roses opinion of the movie, but we can get into that later. Overall, made me feel happy.
Okay. All right. Yeah, for me, this has been kind of a favorite movie for years. In fact, my wife and I, we were watching it actually just last night, and she was talking about how much she had watched this movie even as a kid, and didn't fully understand everything that she was probably seeing in the movie, and really understanding what Vivian's profession was and what is entailed with that, and all that. I don't think I probably saw this movie very often before. Well, we'll just put it this way. I don't think I saw this movie before having a girlfriend. I don't know that there would have been too much about this movie that would have made me want to watch it. But then having watched it, I really enjoy this movie. This movie makes me happy. I like the little moments between the two of them. I think it's just a great love story. We actually like, because we watched it, I think, so much while we were dating, that we were kind of excited when they were coming out with not the sequel, but the two of them together again in the movie Runaway Bride. And actually, the irony of that is that's the movie that we went to go see the day that I proposed to Sharon. So that was kind of our, it was kind of one of our memories related to. That's how we remember what day it was, because sometimes we kind of forget, like, was it this day or was it this day? We just have to go back and look at the movie poster, because whatever day the movie came out, that's the day that it happened.
There you go.
So we have that, and we always really enjoyed this movie. So I think between just the fun little moments and the little side characters here and there, and that's something too that just makes me happy about these movies is, Gary Marshall tends to reuse a lot of the same actors, and they're always fun actors. Hector Elizono's character, Barney Thompson from The Hotel. You've got, I forget the guy's name, but he's the one that is running the clothing store when Richard Gere and Julia Roberts go there, and they say, we're going to be spending an obscene amount of money here.
Yeah.
We're going to require a lot of sucking up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sir, I could tell when you walked in that you're not only a handsome man, but a force to be reckoned with. Not me. So, all those different characters, they all get reused in a lot of other movies. They actually get those actors are also in the movie Runaway Bride that Richard Gere and Julia Roberts are in together years later. So, it's fun. It's sweet. It just feels very familiar. It's like a comfort food. So it's not, I don't know if you want to dig too deep into the meaning of the movie, there's not going to be a whole lot of substance there, I don't think, but it's just something that if you need a movie to watch, this is one of those that I feel like you could just pick up at any time, pop in, and you'd be just as happy watching it. And you don't have to think too much about, what movie should I watch? Is it, if it's there, if it's available, it's like, oh, you want to watch that? Sure. Let's watch that one.
Cool.
Now, I will say it was a bit of a funny, I don't know if you want to call it a blast from the past or whatever, but knowing that we're doing this for our podcast, so clearly the movie has reached its 30th anniversary. When I went downstairs in our basement to go get our DVD copy of this movie, it is the 10th anniversary edition of the DVD.
Oh, there you go.
So even my DVD copy of this movie is 20 years old.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what is it? So for the things about this movie, we've all said positive things about it, so it's clear none of us hate this movie. What is it that does work about this movie? And as I ask that question, I'm going to also say, just because I'm a glutton for punishment, I went into some of the user reviews on IMDb for Pretty Woman, and I saw it runs the gamut of people who love this movie and people who think that this movie is the worst piece of garbage that's ever been made. It is not only offensive, it is harmful. It's, it runs the entire spectrum of love and hate for this movie, which I was not expecting to see, but I understand some of their points. So, I don't want to discount those things, but at the same time, that's not my experience with it. So there's that. But, so what is it? We all said something positive about this movie. So what is it that works for you when you watch this movie?
I like the car scene.
I thought about you as I was watching it. I'm like, oh, Pat's gonna love the Lotus. I mean, I love the Lotus. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Corner's
I
like it's
thought
on
that was
rails.
Right.
That's probably about how I would do with that car. Because there was a summer that I was working for a car wash and a spot that would do some auto detailing and things like that. And they actually they dropped me off at a customer's house and they drove away right away. And I was supposed to pick up the customer's Jeep and bring it back to the detailing place.
It was a stick.
It was a stick, and I've never driven a stick in my life.
On a Jeep.
So it was very much a learning experience. I didn't have to drive it very far, thank goodness, but it very much reminds me of the beginning of the movie when he's trying to drive that car and roughly his reaction to that.
It's funny. I learned to drive stick a little bit later on. I think I was going into college, or I was in college when I finally learned to drive it. It's funny because I have a similar story. Maybe this should have been one of the 3 questions, your most embarrassing driving stick story. But it was funny because I was the designated driver that night. And, I met a group of people out at the bars and stuff. And my buddy had a big, if you remember Toy Story, you remember the pizza delivery truck that was like, it just said, yo, that was kind of like my buddy's truck. And it was stick shift. And it's like the clutch, you push the clutch pedal to the floor, and to get the clutch totally engaged, you had to like slip the clutch out, and to the point where it came so far out that your knee was like touching your lips. Okay. I mean, like that's how far the drag was on this pedal. And I remember that he was like, yeah, I really want to get my car. I can't leave it on the street, but I can't be driving and all that. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, Pat, I'm just like, guys, I just learned. That's okay. You're the best thing, Pat. We got to get you, you got to get us home. Okay. And so I was so bad, and the car was literally hopping down the street that we got pulled over, and the police officer thought I'd been drinking. And I just, and he says, have you been drinking tonight? And he's, all this kind of, I said, nope, I'm actually the designated driver. Okay. Cause you were driving erratically. I said, officer, I'm really sorry. I just learned to drive stick. This is my buddy's car and I'm not very good. And then he actually kind of laughed at me. And, I was totally fine to drive, except I couldn't drive stick. So I literally had this guy's like truck, like bouncing. And I remember he was grabbing on like with both hands, like, Canagallo, I think I'm going to get sick because you're making this car hop down the road, So it was, that was kind of a fun experience. I don't think we went much faster than about 5 to 10 miles an hour. But we made it home. I don't know what state the clutch was in when we made it home, but we made it home.
You survived.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's all one can ask for these days.
Exactly.
So what, other than cars and stick shift, what does work for you in this movie?
I mean, it's,
well, I'll stop you there for a second and just say, I am glad that the car guy also has a story where he had trouble driving stick. So that makes me feel a little bit better.
That's exactly. Yeah. Well, hey, you know what? You gotta learn, I mean, and it's kind of a lost art,
Oh no, I never learned. Like that was the one time I did it and I did it horribly. And I've still never learned. So.
Well, John, the next time you're over at Middle North, we'll go out to the parking lot and I'll teach you to drive stick. Because okay. I mean, believe it or not, my car is, it's a stick. And I mean, it probably replacing at some point. And that's still one of the features that I shop for is like, can I get this car in stick shift when I'm looking around at cars? So I suppose I could ask the Tesla people just to be that guy, and see.
You totally should.
Yeah, just go. Does this come with standard transmission? So yeah, what works? It's just kind of a modern take on fairy tale. Two lost souls find each other and better each other and do the right thing, and it ends happily ever after. And that's, if you're into that kind of thing, then there you go. It's good. And there's some iconic scenes, that everyone was talking about and everyone will talk about. And I forget, I think my folks went to go see it and kind of described it to me. Patrick, here's what it was about and everything like that. So I feel like I've known of it. I mean, I was conscious of it when it first came out. But yeah, just kind of I think there was great chemistry between Richard Gere and Julia Roberts. So, I think even if the story itself, then, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever written. When you have two characters that can really, help bring it to life, the story is a good vehicle for these two actors to really show off their chops. I think that's always a benefit as well. So I guess that's what I find heartwarming and enjoyable about the movie.
Bo, what works for you with this one?
The relationship with them. I think the things that make this movie fun for me are the little interactions. The interaction between her and the Hector Elizondo character.
Mm-hmm.
The little relationship that develops there. The moment she has with the store clerk where she says, "I'm not his niece."
Mm-hmm.
They never are, dear. The little interactions where
I trust you don't have any other uncles here.
Right. Yeah. Like everyone knows what's happening and it's okay. We're used to this. This is Beverly Hills. It's those things. It's the little things that I enjoy. The scene with the where the waiter catches the snail.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes it so fun. It's the little things.
Right.
There is actually a scene when they're having in the movie Runaway Bride that came out almost 10 years later, so 99. There is a scene where they're having dinner and Richard Gere, actually something slips out of his hand. So they have the kind of a similar gag in that movie too. You can tell that they're definitely trying to bring back a little bit of the formula that helped out with Pretty Woman. Yeah, I will say for me, it's like you said, some of those, just the little moments here and there. And actually watching it this time, kind of the interactions between Richard Gere and Julia Roberts were not necessarily the part I enjoyed most watching it this time. It was the other interaction, the other bits and pieces, Barney at the hotel, like you said, I think her name was Bridget, the clerk that helps her get her first cocktail dress and all that. And just, and her and Kit. And when she goes, and we use this phrase all the time. Whenever I've tried to go to a store and I'm walking around trying to find somebody to help me and nobody will do it, I always will use this phrase, whether Sharon's with me or not. Like, you know what? They work on commission here. Big mistake.
Big
Huge
mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But just the little moments like that too. But yeah, I think some of the side characters are maybe a little bit more interesting to me, especially watching it this time around, than you'd expect the two superstars. And really, I guess at the time they weren't even superstars. They were both pretty much just starting out. They'd had a few movies under their belt. They were just starting to get fairly big at that point, I think. But I think probably the reason why I enjoy this movie a lot and I enjoy it every time I watch it is because I think it's because of Julia Roberts' character. I think just because of her innocence, she's funny in this. She's just cute, for lack of a better term. She's just cute in this movie and cute in kind of a semi-innocent, semi-not so innocent way. The moments that we kind of laugh out loud in this movie, and we did it several times watching it last night, is when they're negotiating the week fee. So she's back and forth between $4,000 and $2,000, and they settle on $3,000, and then she goes, "Holy!" and then just dips down into the pool, into the tub, and just like her reaction there is it's just hilarious.
Which leads to another one of those great little small scenes where she says, "I would have done it for $2," and he says, "I would have paid $4."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like that's another one of those great little scenes there where you're like, okay, that's good.
Yeah. So I guess a follow-up question that I have for us is not necessarily what do you like best about Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, because that's kind of the obvious. I mean, they're the ones on the movie cover. They're the ones on the poster. Right. They're the ones that we think of as being the leading man and the leading lady. Who is your favorite of all the different side characters? So if you look at the store clerks, whether it's the snobby women or whether it's the funny guy, whether it's Barney, whether it's the elevator guy, whether it's Jason Alexander as the lawyer, all these other different little side characters, because I think as much as we are supposed to enjoy the Julia Roberts, Richard Gere part of the movie, I think that especially something like a Gary Marshall movie, I think that's what he does well, is these little side characters. So of these side characters, if you had to pick one that you enjoyed, which one is probably your favorite of the little side characters?
Can it?
What were you going to say?
Sure, it can.
Okay, I was going to say the old man whose company he's buying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I like him the best because he's all cantankerous with him, and he pushes back against him at dinner, but then he realizes that eventually this is going to work out. And then one of the last lines he says is, "We're going to build big ships together."
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I like him.
I guess I like the who was the guy that was like, I keep wanting to say the maitre d', but he was, kind of the guy in charge of the hotel. Barney. Okay, yeah, I liked him. He was kind of just a human being, so that was nice.
Yeah.
I think I probably have to go with him as well. I think he's my favorite. I like his character in Runaway Bride. The one that they're in about 10 years later. I think kind of a similar character in both movies, but I like his interactions with her, that he knows exactly what she is. He's not, he's still treating her like a human being. He's not being, not necessarily being condescending to her. But he can pretty quickly tell in a city that you would assume, or an affluent neighborhood where you'd assume that most people would just look down on her and ignore her just like they did at the store. He is actually seeing her for what she's going through and what she's struggling with. And, just that he's funny in a very dry way. But he's also very kind. And I think for me that he would be the side character I enjoy most. Now, the one I think is probably the funniest is definitely the store clerk that is the one that does the sucking up to them.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I can't remember that actor has been in a bunch of other stuff, and I cannot remember off the top of my head what his name is, but that.
Yeah, he is. He's one of those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, are we talking an obscene amount of money? Are we talking a ridiculous amount of money, or are we talking really offensive?
Really offensive.
Really. Oh, I like this man. So I was almost going to hesitate to bring this up, but have you gentlemen heard about the dark side of Pretty Woman?
The dark side of Pretty Woman?
Yeah.
There's a dark side that I'm unaware of in a movie about a prostitute. I'm intrigued.
Mm-hmm. So this is this is kind of a retelling of, we mentioned that the, Bo, I think you mentioned that the opera that they go to is kind of a mirroring of their story.
La Traviata, yes.
Yeah. And, it's a little bit of in some ways it's a Cinderella story. I mean, not that Cinderella was a prostitute, but that would be a very different Disney movie.
Oh,
yeah. Was it George Bernard Shaw, Pygmalion, the play?
My Fair Lady.
I mean, so similar ideas of someone kind of being brought up from their lowly state by someone who is wealthy and influential and affluent and all that. So I guess what had happened is, and I remember looking at this on IMDb and seeing the writer's credits and thinking, wow, this is really weird. Like, this writer has done pretty much like Steven Seagal action movies, like a bunch of ninja movies and like weird stuff, like nothing else really like Pretty Woman up to this point in his career. And so I dug a little bit deeper, and what I found was he was having a little bit of trouble getting some of his scripts sold. And so he decided he wanted to do something a little bit different. And so in I think it was the mid 80s at that point, maybe early to mid 80s, maybe, there was, definitely it's the 80s. So you've got money and you've got yuppies and you've got just kind of like the corporate and commercial aspect of the 80s. And so he wrote a screenplay that was called 3000. And so it's based on the amount that he was going to pay her for the week. And in the screenplay, it was actually supposed to be a world in which big business has kind of destroyed American society. And you have this wealthy financier, and he's going to, bring someone up out of the depths of poverty and prostitution and whatever. And at the end of the movie, he's basically going to just like walk away and leave her, back where she started. And it was supposed to show you how evil and depressing big business is.
Okay.
And that was the original screenplay for Pretty Woman. That it was not a romantic comedy at all. It was a much darker drama. And even, I think even when Richard Gere and a couple other people got involved in this movie was back when it was still that screenplay. and they stuck with it for several years. And over the course of time, the rights to the movie ended up getting sold to Touchstone, which is part of Disney. And Disney, they were kind of okay with that idea, but they're like, nah, let's lighten it up a little bit. And eventually, over time, it ended up becoming the romantic comedy it was. But originally, it was supposed to be almost this very dark and, for lack of a better term, depressing take on how does business and how does the world of finance in the 80s destroy the little people.
Mm-hmm.
That was the original idea for this movie. That's a very different movie than what we got.
Yeah, no joke.
Yeah. I can't even say they used the same general concept. I mean, it was like,
right.
Wow.
Not really. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a few little basics here and there, but well, I don't want to take us too far down a rabbit hole. I did want to kind of almost jokingly say that we could turn this, based on some of the stuff I read in the comments section of IMDb, we could turn this into an Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom thing, and I can ask you about the white male savior for this movie. And I don't know if we want to start a fight, or I'll start that by saying we love you, Jeff, and we miss you.
Well, I'm not going to comment on the white male savior thing, but I have to admit I was skeptical going into this movie about that whole thing. Because I'd seen it before, and I was kind of like, yeah, okay, I'll watch it for the podcast. Like I personally, I mean, if Tammy says, hey, let's watch Pretty Woman. Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to like throw a temper tantrum. I try not to make a habit of doing that anyways. But I don't think I would seek this movie out unless I had someone else wanted to see it. And I got to admit, I kind of went into it a little skeptical of that whole thing. And I was just like, I just find myself, and again, I'm not going to comment on the white male savior piece of it. Cause that gets into one of those chicken and the egg arguments. And, well, maybe I don't even know if that reference works. It gets into a rabbit hole of, I'm
just trying to bait you to get you to, fight with me.
Oh, okay. I'll be honest with you. There were things that I kind of struggled with the movie where it was like, yeah. And part of it was kind of like what I felt like with Dazed and Confused, where, yeah, it's a fun movie, but they don't show any of the consequences of anything that goes on in that movie. Right. And so like for this, they don't show like any of the disease or any of, what would that lifestyle do to someone's psyche? You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't imagine. Like, I don't live that lifestyle, so I don't know. But it was like, it was all painted as consequence free. I mean, like even when they're like talking like, yep, can you believe they pulled so-and-so out of the dumpster? Oh man, that's awful. And they didn't use it as a comical thing, but the audience wasn't in the dumpster when they were pulling her out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so you don't see the families, and you don't see, like the whole thing where the guy that thought he owned the block or was trying to be her pimp or whatever, Richard Gere has his security guard, show his weapon, and all of a sudden the guy like backs off. I mean, that's where I kind of bumped up against it. So maybe I would have liked the original version of this movie a little bit better. I mean, and again, I'm not going to knock it. Like, I know everyone loves it and they love it for what it is. And believe me, I love the movie Commando and was jumping up and down with excitement watching Predator 2. So, I mean, I get the whole enjoy the movie for what it is. But I mean, I just find myself like, well, yeah, of course it like, well, and it depicts that, yeah, everything's okay because we got money. It was like, okay, well, yeah, that's not going to be. And I mean, I get the whole, yep, they lived happily ever after. And okay. And that movie's not supposed to delve into like relationships and all that kind of thing. But, like I said, it painted an entirely, everything was consequence free. Her friend stayed in that life. I'm not getting out of that. Okay, well, it's a rough life, but we're going to make it happen.
Right. It's don't think about it too hard and just go along for the ride, basically, is kind of the message. Well, and that's, I kind of wanted to ask that question or this question and ask if this made a difference. I mean, there's been a lot of discussion within the last, let's say, 2 to 3 years about certain movies that in the past, not a whole lot of people maybe questioned some of the things that happen in those movies. You take an example of like an Animal House. Just a few years ago, sure, there would have been some people that would have questioned, hey, wait a minute, why is that funny? Whereas now I think you have a lot more of a discussion. I mean, I personally, it's still a hilarious movie. That doesn't mean that I condone the things that are done in that movie and some of the things that are said in that movie. And I still think it's funny, and I don't think that I have too much of a problem. I can clearly distinguish in my mind between what's right and wrong. And so I don't have a problem with that movie. But that was one of the questions I was going to ask you guys was, with a movie like this, and you had some people that even when it came out, I think it was Daryl Hannah, might have been, if I have the name right, she might have been one of the ones that was originally approached to play the part of Vivian.
Mm-hmm.
And she refused because she thought it was denigrating to women. So clearly there were some folks back in the late 80s that, still felt that this movie was not a positive message for anybody, and had very strong feelings about it. But I think within the last few years, there is a stronger sense of some of that too. So one of my questions was going to be, and we've started to kind of go down that path, is this movie problematic in 2020? And I will say, to kind of just very quickly give my piece on that, is another movie that I rewatched just very recently that is more problematic for me. I don't have as much a problem, and maybe that's just part of my bias for enjoying this movie, is I don't have as much a problem with this movie. One that I did rewatch that I have not watched since the mid 90s, that I actually had a hard time watching this time, was Falling Down.
Mm.
Now, having watched that one, given, I think some of the discussions of anger and resentment in society and things like that, like I actually had a hard time watching that movie. I remember enjoying it when I watched it in the mid 90s. And watching it this time, I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, that's, I know that we're not supposed to view this guy as a hero, but I think in the mid 90s, I sympathized with him a whole lot more. Man, he's having a really rough day, and oh man, look at that. But I don't know, watching it this time, I was like, no, this guy needs to be stopped. Like, this is bad stuff. None of this is right. Like, he has no right to do any of this. He really has no right to be that angry. I mean, his life compared with, somebody who's got it much worse than him. So I had a really hard time watching that movie, more so than thinking that this movie is problematic. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Is this movie, is Pretty Woman problematic in 2020, or is it still okay?
I think it definitely gets a little problematic. Not in such a way, at least in my opinion, it doesn't hurt my enjoyment of it, for better or worse.
Mm-hmm.
But I could definitely see the argument someone might give that would say this is dated, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would get made the same way today.
Mm-hmm.
By anyone.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, and I know I talked to you guys about this. I'm gonna keep bumping back to the Friendly Fire podcast, and it was the Captain America one, and it was interesting because I'll tell you, I don't necessarily agree with everything those guys say, but they definitely bring up points that have to be considered. And I think it was Adam Pranica when he was talking about it. I think he said, yeah, the mark of growing up is that it's okay to still like the things that we like that when we were kids, but you got to be able to take a look at them and question them and not be threatened. And I'm kind of paraphrasing and using a few of my own words. You got to be able to question things and take an honest look at things. I mean, and so, I'm not trying to say that I have the corner on honesty. And I guess, I mean, I don't know. I didn't see this in 1990, but this wasn't the first time I'd seen it. And I remember thinking back when I originally saw it, and now I did have problems with it. And I don't think it was not problematic back then. I just don't think that we were questioning on that level. And I mean, I guess the way I would answer this question is, I mean, I don't need to get into something as sweeping as, is it the white man savior thing and all that? But, I just have these questions. It's like, well, okay, he went through a character arc, like he was less of a jerk, but it never really said, it never really explored that in depth. He went through that arc and he triumphed over his personal demons and all that. Yeah, like she never really did. He had to go rescue her. You know what I'm saying? Like he had to tell her that he didn't see her as only a prostitute, and then she was okay with it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like he had to help break her out of her lifestyle, or
she was the same. Her personality didn't change really at all. I mean, maybe she gained a little bit of extra confidence, but I mean, she was pretty confident at the beginning. So really, I mean, I guess if you want to look at it being a little bit problematic, then it's that, her character arc depended completely upon his money at the end of the movie.
Yeah. It was.
So that's where it could be problematic, is that really she didn't have much of a character arc. She was the same character. I mean, she was the same kind of, sweet, innocent girl that she was at the beginning of the movie. She's the exact same person at the end of the movie. All the potential, all of the wittiness, all the intelligence, all of that stuff didn't change for her. The only thing that changed was now she had a better set of clothes and she had enough money to go back to school or do whatever.
Yeah. And I mean, it wasn't totally on the nose. I mean, they did live happily ever after and all that, but I guess, I mean, and I'm approaching it with the wrong thing in mind. Like I want something that's a little bit more realistic, but I mean, if I was watching that, if I was watching this movie with my daughter, obviously years and years and years from now, I mean, and I wouldn't ever want her to aspire to be, end up living that kind of a lifestyle or having to go into that profession or whatnot. But, even that, just the way that, like I said, that being portrayed just in a consequence-free, I mean, like the biggest consequence of her, working as a prostitute was she couldn't make rent. I mean, well, yeah, there's a little bit, it's a little bit deeper than that. And, they're finding all this, now about, people to, forced to work in that area, that profession. And, the whole, people abducted from, various parts of the world and, kind of sold into sex slave rings and all this kind of stuff that's out there. And it's like, to kind of put the happy spin on it, it's, I don't know, like I kind of bump on that. Like, are we really like, why are we kind of glorifying this? Why are we painting this as consequence free? What happens if the Richard Gere character was like, just some guy that was working a minimum wage job? I don't, there were too many things that were, okay, well, there's a lot of money and we can fly to the opera, so that's okay. I guess, I don't know, maybe leaving Las Vegas is a little bit more my speed. I just, it really, there were just too many things that I just kind of bumped up against. Like, yeah, we're kind of painting over this with a glossy image. And I know, I mean, okay, internet, before you come and attack me, I mean, I know I'm not the chosen audience for this. I mean, but why did she need him to rescue her? I mean, it's because it's set up, even that when he drives up, I mean, what I'm left with is not their happily ever after. It's her whole happiness is contingent on him. It's kind of like, you gotta be able to save yourself before, you can be like, even if someone's there to kind of give you, light the path and give you a hand up and everything, you're still the one that has to, make the moves. Do you know what I'm saying? What I'm trying to drive at? I'm not, it's like Morpheus said, I can show you the doorway, but you got to step through it. And like, and it was, she lived happily, but again, the way the story was written, it was because of him that she could move forward.
Yeah.
She needed him to pull that lawyer guy off of her and, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
She should have been the one that slugged him. She should have been the one that slugged him.
Mm-hmm.
She should have been the one that, I mean, it's like,
and if it was rebate today, she probably would be.
Yeah. And right. So, maybe we need the remake, but I guess that was my problem with it. And again, I mean, I'm not going to like take to the internet, and I'm not like trying to, present company, obviously this is a little bit of an ironic statement. I'm not like finding all my friends and saying, oh my God, I just saw Pretty Woman. This thing's the worst piece of crap, no, not at all. And I mean, there's, it's a, a neat, a fun story and all that kind of stuff. But I just, there's just enough in there that I bump up against that. Yeah. That's kind of what I get with it. So anyways.
Yeah.
All these things I understand.
So.
Yeah, I think it's one of those cases of, when I don't know how many episodes that was ago now when he had that author on, Kevin Smokler, who did the book about the kind of the Brat Pack movies and Brat Pack America, and talked to him for a little bit on it. And that was one of the questions I kind of asked him, was because at the time some of the other stuff had come out. It was very much in the beginnings or kind of semi-early stages of the Me Too movement and things like that. And I remember asking him that question because I think Molly Ringwald had just put out she'd just been interviewed about something and was talking about 16 Candles and Breakfast Club and some of those movies and how she felt about her character and the way they were portrayed. And I think an article about Animal House had just come out about how that was a problematic movie. And I remember one of the things that that the author Kevin had mentioned was, as long as you, and that's something that I think I mentioned earlier too, as long as you're not deifying these characters, as long as you're not saying, wow, those guys are my heroes, for everything that they did, as long as you're not emulating and wanting to copy what they're doing. Oh, I think
John, John, welcome back.
I think I lost you guys there for a minute.
You faded away. It was crazy town, man.
Yeah, we were.
I wish I would have burned out. It's better to burn out than fade away.
There it is. There it is.
Well, all right. Well, I think we probably better jump into some 3 questions here. Are you gentlemen ready for that?
Oh, I'm ready for 3 questions.
Bring it on.
Okay, 3 questions.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Number 1, first of our 3 questions this time around. If Richard Gere gave you his credit card to go shopping with, where would you go and what would you buy?
Best Buy or Apt, and I would just trick out everything. I mean, I'd have an 80-inch TV in every room. And yeah, I would just go nuts.
Yeah, I'm trying not to be like the practical mind, because I'd immediately be going, okay, what debts do I need to pay down, and what's blah 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 blah.
No. When Richard Gere hands you the credit card, this is completely non-practical.
Yeah. Okay. So there would probably be, there's a list of vehicles that need to be purchased. Okay. I'd probably get a plane, learn to fly it. There's a short list of vehicles that that would be fun to have. Of course, like any need to have car list comes with a Corvette, so that would have to happen. I got to be honest with you. I'd go to Jason's Deli and I would purchase the salad bar as well as people to keep it stocked and up, and I'd have that installed in my house. I think that would be awesome. And other than that, just some odds and ends, just some here and there type things and all that kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever I do, I'd set it up so that I could always afford the motorcycle that I want. If this is a one-time, I got the credit card, I'd somehow set up some kind of a motorcycle trust fund or something so that I could, but
yeah, up maintenance and upkeep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mine would probably be some sort, vehicles.
Okay.
Boat, plane, car.
Planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think mine would be, well, this is funny because I, usually when we do when we're at one of our evenings where we're going to do our recordings, I'll always ask if they're appropriate. I'll always ask the family while we're having dinner, the 3 questions for our movies. And I kind of had to figure out some good 3 questions for this movie because I didn't want any of them to involve prostitution.
Yeah.
It's let's explain that one to the kids.
Yeah.
So I asked him a couple of these questions too, and of course Nora, she jumped right away to, well, Mom really wants a new car, so I'd buy Mom a new car.
There it is.
And John Ezra's like, well, I wouldn't. I got plenty of stuff I want for myself. So we have determined that Nora is now the favorite child.
Sure.
That's okay.
Yeah. I didn't know that was up for debate. I thought that was a lock.
It's pretty much locked in, and he's probably going to start yelling as soon as he hears this because I know he listens to the podcast. So
no kidding.
John, I love you as well, buddy. But yeah, it's Nora. So yeah, she was very selfless about that. I think he said he was going to buy a whole bunch of Lego sets and buy himself an Xbox and a PlayStation, and he tried to go the route of getting the unlimited wishes by buying a gift card so that he could spend it at a whole bunch of different times. And
oh, good. Okay.
I was like, no.
You got to give him credit for the effort, but
I know. I said, we're not trying to like shake down the genie and get multiple wishes here. So,
well, that's honestly, I kind of went with him with that whole motorcycle thing. That was kind of my thought,
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. I think the route I would go is I would either like Bo. I'm kind of with you. I would head over to either a Best Buy or either like a Guitar Center or the Sweetwater music place. And I think what I'd do is I'd set up the home theater with a really nice TV and sound system and seats, and I would just do it up so I would never leave my living room ever again.
There you go.
Or I'd go the route of what I've always wanted to do is someday when I get enough money to do this is I would like to set up a fully functioning, like soundproof little podcast booth in my basement. With everything all nice and tricked out I've got the mixer I'd like to have and computer there to run everything and have a little booth that I could just sit in while I'm doing the podcast stuff. And so I'd probably do some of that stuff.
Yeah. I'd like having a pool. Put a pool in the basement. That'd be nice.
In the basement? Okay.
Yeah, like outside, maybe one outside too, but you'd have to heat it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So like if I go outside now, like I could, I think.
Yeah.
And my salad bar, have to have the salad bar.
Okay. Yeah. So we did have again Jason Colvin.
Right. Where was he going? What was he thinking?
He said probably not what you're going for, but if it was me, I'm using that credit card to travel and attend all Major League Baseball parks during one summer.
That's an outstanding thing.
And he said,
"I'm good idea."
Yeah, and he said, "I'm coming home with a souvenir T-shirt from every park."
Cool.
So,
have we covered that? There was a guy I taught with. He was a band director up at Lake Forest High School. He's since moved to California. He taught at our summer music camp. He and some buddies did that. They drove and saw. I think they saw a game in every single stadium.
Oh, nice.
One summer, yeah, and it was like I think they went consecutive days or something. I don't know, whatever the heck it was. They saw a game, one game a day, and they drove to every major league ballpark for the summer. Nice. And they were like, so he had an opinion on every ballpark and how they were different, and it was cool.
Well, we had somebody else on Twitter responded to Jason, and his name is Kevin Crumpler at OU Crumpy. And he said I would have done the same thing, which is why I've resigned myself to doing it every Memorial Day weekend. So
there you go.
Good choices. Good choices. All right. Question number 2. What is your ideal date with your spouse or significant other? So and thankfully Sharon and I had the exact same idea, so that works out well.
That is good.
Ours was if your ideal date, if you can go wherever, any of that. We said our ideal date would be we'll fly to Scotland and we will find Sharon really wants, I think because our minivan does not handle so well in the snow, she very much wants a new Subaru. Like she's very interested in the Subaru, the Outback, or the Ascent, or something like that. So
really, yeah.
it ended up turning into we'd fly to Scotland, but we'd somehow road trip it across Scotland in a Subaru. And then we'd find a really good Indian restaurant, and we'd have our Indian food in Scotland with our brand new Subaru car.
That's wow. So, that's awesome.
So that works for me too. Car I can take or leave. Kind of car doesn't really matter to me, but Scotland, Indian food, I'm all good.
Dinner, drinks, followed by a band on a beach. I'm not as particular as to the beach. Could be Hawaii, but it could also be Door County in the summertime. The beach isn't really, the location of the beach doesn't matter.
Are you particular about the band?
Well, not particular so much as they have to be good and I have to like the music they play.
Okay. Style of music?
That's a tough one. Like, I could go straight up cover band as long as they're playing good covers, you know?
Okay.
I just want live music on a beach, dinner, drinks, and music. That's what I want.
Okay.
Now, I think if you asked my wife, it would be on a beach in Key West, and the band would be Kenny Chesney. But, that's getting specific.
Hey, the question was, what is your ideal date? So
Exactly. I'm not as picky about the band or the location of the beach. And I think if you made her pick, she'd pick Kenny Chesney and would give up the location. But ideal, Key West, Kenny Chesney. But I'm pretty sure dinner, drinks, and music would be involved. Oh, and a beach. Did I mention a beach?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's because it's the end of January.
Maybe.
But a beach sounds really
You might have
good,
mentioned
right?
it. You might have mentioned it like 3 or 7 times.
Yeah, a beach sounds really good right now.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, what's your ideal?
So, I mean, I'm trying to think of how to answer this question, and I guess I ended up with like the practical. I think the most fun dates that I have with Tammy are going down in the city and either taking in Chicago Symphony or taking in like a musical. If like we just saw Hamilton or something like that. We went down and saw that with Jeff and his wife. We saw the Mel Brooks live show. So, some show like that, or getting down to the jazz showcase or one of the jazz clubs down there, Chicago Symphony, just a show, I mean, that's kind of a wide range, but some kind of a show or concert or something like that. Much to my regret, I have not been to an opera. I would love to get to the opera or something like that. And then just go to a restaurant I've never been before for dinner. Or let me take that back. Get down there early and go to a restaurant I've been to before for lunch, the show, and then afterward, a restaurant I've never been to, or vice versa. Get down, restaurant I've never been to, I would say that if I had to go out, that would be it. Otherwise, like my ideal date, if it's the summer, I could be persuaded to do that during the summer as well. But if it's the summer, Bo, I like, your idea. It would involve the beach, and the date would be, go out on the water, go out on the beach, do all that kind of thing. And then maybe like, build a fire and, sleep, and then wake up early next morning and repeat, so that's not so much as a date as just a collection of things that are fun to do for the second one. But I'd say as far as a date, I think that's what it would be, food and some music or show or something like that.
So on Twitter, Jason responded to this one too. He said, my idea of a dream date. So there's very much a beach theme going on here, apparently for everybody but me and Sharon. Like I think our option was if you want to do like a beach on some like Scottish lake somewhere, then sure. We're on the beautiful shores of Loch Rannoch or something like that. But Jason Colvin said the idea of a dream date with his wife, breakfast in their hotel room, a morning jog, and then spending all day at a beach in Kauai. He says Anini or Kalapaki, I'm hoping I'm saying those right, beach. And then Korean street tacos at Duke's in Kauai. So clearly he's been to these spots before because he's being very specific. And then he says eventually that falling asleep watching Frasier.
There you go.
So he did offer it in parentheses censored in the middle of his ideal date. So I'm let that go as you will. But I did say I did ask this question. I was like, Mom and I are the only ones that can answer this. But John, if you had to go on your ideal date, where would you go? And he's like, what? Wait, do I have to go with anybody? Like, okay, well, that's kind of the point, buddy. But like, where would you go? He's like, oh, I don't know. I'd go see a movie or something. And it was like, would it be like a romantic comedy? Or he's like, I don't know. I just go see a movie. So I think we decided it would be a romantic horror. I don't know what that would be, but I think he'd be a little bit more interested in that. And Nora was funny because she actually the other day we had been talking about this because my sister had just gone on a date with somebody, and Nora was saying, when I go on dates someday, this is how the date's going to go. I'm going to walk in. I'm going to say, hi, my name is Nora. Do you like science and podcasts? No, you don't? I'm calling my mom. This date's over.
Wow.
Good for her. Good for her.
And she did tell me, and I haven't gotten it on tape yet. She did tell me she's not dating until she's at least 30. So I am super happy.
That's right.
Totally fine with all of that.
Yeah, you're gonna
There
be
you
beating
go.
them off with a stick.
Yep.
There you go.
It's not going to work that way, but I'm very excited for it to possibly be that way.
I love it. I love it. Do you like science and what was it?
Podcasts.
Yeah, do you like science and podcasts?
Podcasts.
Mhm.
No. All right, we're done.
No,
we're
done.
out. You're done.
This date's over. Yeah, this date's over. Mom, can you come pick me up?
Yeah, like no. You like see, she's not gonna need any guy to come rescue, save her. You know?
No, not at all.
Yeah,
Not at all.
that's right. So there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, question number 3. Vivian gets introduced to some foods she's never eaten before at the dinner scene. What is the strangest food you've ever eaten?
So I was at Korean barbecue, and I was barbecuing something that I have no idea. I tried to eat it, and I have no idea what it was.
Still to this day, you don't know what it was?
I have no idea what it is, what it was.
What it shall be.
I have no idea. I mean, maybe that was part of the experience that kind of caused me to kind of change what I eat today. I'm not 100% sure, but that would have been the weirdest thing. Was I was like, hey, I think this is, whatever we think this is, and then it was like chewing it. It was like, what is this? I don't know. Okay, well, we're just going to avoid that. I'm going to go get some bean sprouts and like an egg roll or something. I mean, it was like I have no idea what I just tried to eat.
Strangest thing I've ever eaten that I kind of enjoyed is I had ostrich soup once. But like strangest thing that I didn't like, mussels. I don't like mussels.
Really?
Yeah, that texture. I just have never been a fan. So, yeah.
What about you, John? What do you got?
I've got, you know what, and actually two of my, and see, here's the thing, is I said when we were talking about this tonight, before we started recording, I told my wife, I said, I've got some that are probably going to be considered weird, but I don't consider them weird. Like they're really good. Like I like them. So it's not like it's weird and I'm like grossed out by it. One I remember having in college, the octopus tentacles. That was pretty weird, still tasted good, but that was probably one of the weirder things I've ever had before. But my two, I mean, I'm going to be very consistent tonight. I got to go back to Scotland for both of them. My two are probably going to be haggis and black pudding.
All right.
So are we aware of what black pudding is? Because that freaks my children out every time I talk about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I understand why they would be freaked out.
Yeah. It's good stuff though. Now, granted, every time we went to Scotland, when we lived over in England, every time we go to Scotland, I would always get black pudding for breakfast. And I will tell you, every time I went to Scotland, I always had an upset stomach.
I bet.
But I don't care. It was good stuff.
The risk, it's worth it.
Oh, it was totally worth it. There was also the time where I don't think of this as being weird, but there was also a time where I think to demonstrate some of the things that were around during some of the world wars and the Depression. And Bo, I don't know if the same teacher did this with your class. I remember there was a history teacher that we had that brought in cans of Spam to try to get everybody to try Spam.
I do have an odd memory of this.
Okay. And I remember, do you remember the guy in our grade? His name was Jared Klein.
I do.
So Jared and I sat next to each other in our U.S. history class, and everybody else in this class, so a class of probably 24, 25 plus people, everybody's sitting there going, ugh, no, I'm not having the Spam. Well, I think we must have been close to the last class of the day or something like that. And she really didn't want to take this stuff home.
Sure.
So Jared Klein and I sat there and we finished the rest of the Spam that she had throughout the rest. That was one of my favorite classes I ever had that entire year.
Nice.
We just sat there and we ate Spam the entire class.
I believe everything about that story. Like knowing that, yes, you did.
Yes, we did. Well, my lovely wife said that she said that she remembered, and she doesn't necessarily remember what the foods might have been, but she said that one time with Model UN in high school, that there was a teacher, Mr. Underbrink, and that he took him down to Chinatown in the city at one point, and he ordered things off the menu that they had no clue what they were. And I guess did you have Mr. Underbrink? I never had him as a teacher.
I did not either, but
he was
knew of him.
He was a character.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, and I think he just went. I think he just went to town and just ordered
what
he felt like ordering off the menu. And
he was very well traveled, so he had probably had all of this food at one point or another in his life. And
oh yeah, all good stuff. All good stuff.
Totally.
I won't eat bugs though. That was the one time I decided
not a chocolate covered caterpillar kind of guy.
Nope, not at all. I'll eat blood pudding day and night, but I will not eat bugs.
Interesting.
Not a fan. Not a fan. All right. Well, let's see. You know what? Last week I forgot again to ask what your rating for the movie would be when we were doing Predator 2. So I'll ask you this time. Out of 5 steaming divots, what would you give Pretty Woman?
I'll say 4 steaming divots.
Okay.
I'll say 3.5. And I could be. If people start giving me dirty looks and it's going to cause an uproar, I'll say 4.
Nah, nobody's.
And if it's not, that's no. I mean, I'm saying present company included. I just.
Oh yeah.
It's like I don't want to fight about it, so it's like, oh hey, yeah, right, okay, it's all good. I'm gonna give it 4. I'm not good, but I kind of feel 3.5.
All right, well, you can go 3.5. I'm going to go with a 4. So,
all right.
So we'll do that. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for being here again. So it's a good start to our Love is in the Air month. So over the course of the next few weeks, we will be taking a look at Ghost, Wild at Heart, and Mermaids. And then beyond that, I know Pat's probably a little bit more excited about next month when we get to the Planes and Automobiles month.
Oh.
So in March, if you're looking ahead to March, if you want to go look for some of these movies, try to find them somewhere. In March, after we get done with Love is in the Air, we've got Planes and Automobiles. That will be Air America, Memphis Belle, Days of Thunder, and Cadillac Man.
Oh my God, Days of Thunder. Oh,
and I have tried to look around a little bit, and of those movies, the only one that I think is currently streaming anywhere is Cadillac Man. The last time I looked is both on Amazon Prime and Tubi.tv. So if you're looking for some of those somewhere to get caught up, to listen along with us on the show here, that'll be where you might want to look for that one. But otherwise, Air America, Memphis Belle, Days of Thunder, could not find those that are streaming for free on any of those services. So that's what we got coming up then. If you want to get even further ahead, we'll give you up to April. April's our action and adventure month. So if you're looking for these movies too, some of these are on services like Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Tubi, Stars, some of those, if you have those subscriptions or not. So April starts off with Dances with Wolves. Then we continue with The Hunt for Red October.
There it is, Bo. There it is.
There we go. Navy SEALs.
Oh, jeez.
And we end that month with Rocky 5.
Rocky 5. 1,000.
I didn't hear no bell.
Hey, Tommy Gun.
So. All right. So I think that's going to do it for Pretty Woman this time around. So thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Thank you,
John. Bo, good to see you.
Good to talk to you too, Patrick.
All right. So thank you for being with us here. Come back next time so we continue our month with Ghost, Wild at Heart, and Mermaids. And in the meantime, be excellent to each other. Love one another. I guess we can add that to our Love is in the Air month. Be excellent to each other.
Marriage is what brings us together.
I was about to say it's just like the priest in The Princess Bride. Be excellent to each other. Marriage, that blessed arrangement. All right, be excellent to each other. Go watch some good movies. We'll see you back here next time.